what or who has shaped your analysis and actions and how you use yourself in your work? It could be people, books, movements, experiences that have been significant, folks who've shaped your analysis or things that have shaped your analysis along the way.
Definitely the faculty that were on the social work program in my undergraduate program were hugely influential because it was through those classes that I really learned the language and the understanding the broader macro view of all these things that I had observed, but didn't know how to describe or didn't know how to even really fully think and critique them. So they helped me do that. I had a professor who is a transracial adoptee, Robert O'Connor, and grew up, was in the foster care system, was eventually adopted by a white family. And I just looked up to him and was able to see, you know, what he had accomplished. And because our stories are different, but our trajectories are similar, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
So having that role model and being able to have that support from somebody else who had walked that path was really helpful. And then I had other bosses at places that I worked that believed in me and helped me learn. But I would really say the biggest, it's been the community. And I've tried really intentionally to be part of a community, even as I've gone through more of this formal academics, because academia is a weird space and they are so talked about creativity, but sometimes I think there's a real lack of creativity in higher education and especially in research.
Mhm.
And there's this idea again of like, we're the experts and we're going to come into a community and we're going to study you to tell you what your problems are and what we think should be done. At least this is in social work research. And for me, I was like, no, that's actually the opposite. We should be going into the community because we're part of the community. We listen to what they say. We engage with the community. They tell us this is what we need. This is what we want to study. And then you have the skills to be able to do that study. And then you bring it back to the community and you
Yeah.
say, what do you think? Is this reflect what you thought? And they say yay or nay, and then you adapt and then it has to be accessible to our communities. So if we're doing research and only publishing in academic journals and not presenting it back to the community, then they don't know what's being said or done. Even things like here are some terms that we use in academia and they say, I don't know what that means. Because in our community, we don't use that word. We
Mhm.
don't use that term. And then so are we reflecting the way our community is talking about things? I feel like it's such a privilege for me to have this educational background and the job where I can do this kind of work because I go into the communities and I told them this is really meant to empower you. It's not just about me coming in and saying, this is what I think we should be talking about. And I want them to have the language. I want them to have access to the research because they don't know what's been said or done about our community. And
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just, I feel like academic folks are always saying when they hear things that are happening in our communities, they say that's just anecdotal. And so
Right.
I feel like part of my job is one, to elevate that into research. So when you do a qualitative study, it's not just anecdotal anymore. Now there's evidence. And so it's about like, how do we leverage the critiques that
Yeah.
people are saying about our communities in order to legitimize it? Because the stories are legitimate too, but some people will only hear the research. And
That's
so
right.
how can we do that?
Yeah, and the way you even describe relating to folks in communities who are sharing the information that informs that research, it's like, all right, yeah, we talk, and then we go back and say, okay, this is what we've heard. Is this reflective? And the degrees that folks sometimes will share, actually, no, we don't use that word. And honoring what they're sharing, that kind of a relationship chips away at what I think, and I've experienced too in my own work, when relating to folks in communities, their deep and intimate understanding of how some institutions of higher education have had exploitative relationships with the communities in
Yeah.
which they are living in and the folks living around them. It's no, I don't trust y'all because again, like you're picking up something that's actually not what we said, that's not reflective, is reinforcing some other kind of narrative. And sharing and relating to folks in the way that you described, I think is a great way to bring about some equity in that relationship. It's like we want this to be informed. It's about you. It's supposed to, like you said, it's supposed to empower you. We want our findings, the storytelling that comes out of this to be reflective of what you have shared with us. And it's like honoring the people and not exploiting them, that sort of thing. So appreciate you sharing that piece about your experiences. So the folks that you've named, the community as a group, you mentioned a couple of folks along your educational journey too, others. What would you say to them or about them? What comes to mind that you would say to them or about them in terms of just speaking to the impact that your experience with them has had on you in your life?
We all get to where we are because of the people in our lives who have believed in us. And so part of what I would just say is like, it's so important for any of us doing our work to be mindful of the people that are coming up behind us too. So now I'm at the point where I'm in my mid 50s and I'm in a position of power and privilege. I'm a professor, I have a PhD, I have resources to be able to do my work. And there's a lot of other people who were like me 20 years ago, still trying to figure out their path. And so I really take it to heart. I very much believe at my core that a part of my work means finding ways to bring up other people and to mentor them or to help find resources for them or even just be a sounding board for their projects and to encourage and to pay it back. I feel like I was helped a lot by people who had that power and privilege at one point.
Yeah.
They took me under their wing and I'm now trying to encourage other people. You can do it too. And in fact, the world's ready for you. There's room for all of us to do this work. And I'm encouraged by the number of more people with lived experience who are entering these spaces now and really doing some amazing work.